Has Tapo launched a genuine rival to the Reolink OMVI 3i? This is the Tapo C575D, and like the Reolink, it combines a wide-angle view with a separate pan and tilt tracking camera. However, the two cameras approach the job in very different ways. I've put them through the same tests and spent the past few weeks using the Tapo to find out where it excels, where it falls short, and whether it can genuinely compete with the Reolink. In this video, I'll show you what it can do and help you decide whether the Tapo is the right camera for you. Hey everyone, my name's Simon and welcome to Bite of Geek, a channel that's all about home assistant and smart home technology. A big thank you then to TP-Link for sending me out the Tapo C575D to review on the channel. As always, they've had no editorial input into this video and you'll get my honest thoughts and opinions about it. Inside the box you get a pack containing the documentation, the camera itself, a power adapter if you're not using PoE, mounting hardware and a waterproof cover for the Ethernet connection. The design of the camera is quite interesting and it's considerably smaller than you might expect. I've got a standard 330ml drinks can here for comparison, and as you can see it's surprisingly compact. The mounting bracket is connected to the top of the camera body and can be positioned to suit the location and orientation in which you're installing it. The bracket is fixed in place with 4 screws, after which the camera slides onto it and clicks into place. This makes installation quick and easy, but there doesn't appear to be a retaining screw or locking mechanism to prevent the camera from being unclipped and slid back off. That shouldn't be a major issue if the camera is mounted high enough to be out of reach, but at a lower mounting position someone could potentially remove it quite easily. I would have preferred an additional security screw to lock the camera onto the bracket just to be on the safe side. If you're connecting over Wi-Fi, then there's antenna on the sides of the upper housing with the Ethernet and 12-volt power connectors attached to the end of the bracket by a short pigtail cable. Looking at the camera from the front, the upper section contains the wide angle lens with 2 white LEDs and 2 infrared LEDs positioned around it. The microphone is located just above the lens. Underneath that is the pan and tilt camera, and this uses a telephoto lens and also has 2 white LEDs and 2 infrared LEDs along with a small status light. On the rear are 2 weatherproof covers. One protects the reset button while the other covers the micro SD card slot. The upper wide angle camera can be manually rotated through 240 degrees horizontally and adjusted by 20 degrees vertically, helping you position it for the best possible view. And the lower camera has a mechanical pan range of 338 degrees, providing full 360 degree coverage along with plenty of vertical movement. Importantly, it can look directly down beneath the camera, helping to avoid a blind spot immediately below it. The C575D is impressive for its size, with the camera effectively split into 2 parts. At the top is the fixed wide-angle camera with an 8 megapixel sensor, a 2.53mm focal length and a 1.6 aperture. It records up to 4K resolution at 15 frames per second. Its field of view is 138.1 degrees horizontally, 74.5 degrees vertically and 170 degrees diagonally. Underneath is the pan and tilt telephoto camera, which also has an 8 megapixel sensor and records up to 4K resolution at 15 frames per second. Its narrower 8mm lens has a 1.6 aperture and a field of view of 42.7 degrees horizontally, 22.8 degrees vertically and 49.6 degrees diagonally. Both cameras support colour and infrared night vision. Across the complete unit, you have 4 white LEDs and 4 infrared LEDs, and those white lights are extremely bright when they're all switched on. The camera also features synchronized smart tracking, so when the upper camera detects an event, the pan and tilt camera will rotate towards it and follow the subject. It also has two-way audio and noise cancellation, an IP66 weather resistance rating, and local storage via a micro SD card of up to 512 gigabytes. There's also a range of AI detection features which we'll look at in just a moment. For connectivity, it supports dual band Wi-Fi or wired Ethernet with the option of powering it through PoE. It officially supports Amazon, Google and Samsung SmartThings, and it can also be added to Home Assistant. Once you've installed the Tapo app, setup is straightforward. Select the camera from the list, follow the on-screen instructions and choose whether you'll be connecting over Wi-Fi or Ethernet. After the remaining steps are complete, then the camera is ready to be installed outside. The Tapo app gives you plenty of configuration and control over the camera. On the main screen, you can view the live feeds from both cameras together or display either one individually. You have shortcuts for quickly interacting with the camera, along with AI zoom, which automatically zooms in on a detected subject to keep it more prominent within the frame. The display settings let you choose which information appears over the footage, and you can also configure the night vision mode used by each camera. You can also adjust the video quality and create separate privacy zones for both views, helping you avoid recording areas such as your neighbour's property. The brightness of the spotlights can be adjusted to suit, and any spotlight footage that you see in this video was recorded at the highest setting. There are separate audio and alarm settings, including the ability to record your own warning message, and you can also decide which type of detection, such as person, vehicle or animal, will trigger the alarm. Notifications can also be configured for individual object types, and you can restrict those to certain times with a schedule. Standard notifications are the default, and those are free, but rich notifications containing a snapshot require a Tapo Care subscription, although you do get a 30-day trial included with the camera. The camera also supports RTSP and ONVIF Profile S, and although I couldn't find the stream details anywhere in the app, I did test the RTSP stream using VLC Player and it worked without any problems, allowing the camera to connect to compatible NVRs and NAS surveillance systems for local recording. As well as its official support for Amazon, Google and SmartThings, the C575D can also be added to Home Assistant using the built-in TP-Link smart home integration. There are a couple of additional steps needed before you can do this. You first need to enable third-party compatibility and then create a separate camera account, all within the Tapo app. When I initially tried adding the camera, Home Assistant connected to the device, but I couldn't get the live feed working. It turned out that the integration didn't like one of the special characters that I'd used in the camera account password. Once I changed that, then the live feed connected successfully. Once it's set up, you get a range of entities covering many of the basic functions. However, it does feel as though the camera isn't yet fully supported by the integration. For example, you get a live feed from the upper wide-angle camera, but not from the lower telephoto camera, even though Home Assistant does provide controls for moving the pan and tilt camera. There are also several switches for controlling functions found within the Tapo app, although the options aren't as comprehensive. However, if you primarily want to display the wide-angle live feed on a Home Assistant dashboard, then that works perfectly well. The camera includes several tracking and AI detection features designed to help monitor your property. Synchronized smart tracking uses the lower pan and tilt camera to follow subjects detected by the upper wide-angle camera. You can choose whether it tracks all detected subjects or only selected types, including people, animals and vehicles, and it will continue following them while they remain visible within the scene. Detection zones can be configured separately for each camera, and you can individually enable detection for people, animals, vehicles and general motion. Having separate settings for the two camera views is particularly useful, as each one may be monitoring a different area. There's also line crossing detection, which allows you to draw a virtual boundary across the camera view. If a detected subject crosses that line, the camera can trigger an event and send you a notification. That can be particularly useful if you only want to be notified once someone reaches a particular point, such as entering a driveway or approaching a gate, rather than whenever movement occurs anywhere within the camera's view. Whenever I test cameras on the channel, I put them through the same types of tests. This means that if you're comparing it with a camera I've reviewed previously, you should get a good idea of how their performance differs. To start with, I have my eye chart test, and this involves me walking towards the camera while holding an A4 sheet of paper with an eye chart printed on it. My starting position is approximately 20 feet from the camera, so you can see how much detail it captures at that distance. I've got a few clips to show you. For the first one, I've rotated the upper wide angle camera towards my starting position. As you can see, it captures a very large area, while the lettering on the eye chart remains clear and readable. For the next clip, I've turned the upper camera so that it faces directly forwards. The footage is still crisp and the lettering remains easy to read. Colour reproduction is very good as well, particularly considering this was recorded on quite a cloudy day. Because this uses a single ultra-wide angle lens, there is some slight curvature toward the edges of the image. You don't really see that to the same extent with the Reolink OMVI 3i, but that camera uses two lenses to create a stitched panoramic image. Each approach has its own trade-off: slight edge distortion from the Tapo's single lens, or the possibility of stitching artifacts from the Reolink. It's worth noting though that the Tapo app includes a distortion correction setting that straightens the image to some extent. Enabling it does crop the edges slightly though, so you lose a small amount of the camera's overall field of view. The final clip in this test comes from the lower pan and tilt telephoto camera, and the quality here is also very good. If we zoom into the footage, you can clearly read the bottom row of letters on the chart from my starting position. Because the telephoto lens has a much narrower field of view than the upper camera, there's also no obvious wide angle distortion. Overall, I'm very impressed with the level of detail, and the two cameras combine to produce some excellent daytime footage. Moving on to the nighttime tests, and we start with the upper wide angle camera pointing directly forwards and recording in black and white. The black and white footage is sharp with no obvious ghosting as I move around. You can clearly make out my face along with plenty of detail elsewhere in the scene. In this second clip that I filmed on my phone, you can see what the lighting conditions actually looked like at that time whilst the camera was recording. Next, and I've switched the camera to colour mode, but without turning on its spotlights, and this really impressed me. There is a very small amount of motion blur whilst I'm moving, but overall this is some of the best nighttime colour footage I've seen from a camera without it using its additional lighting. The next clip is from the pan and tilt camera, and once again recording in black and white without any additional lighting. You can see it tracking me as I move into the darker areas of the garden, and it continues to produce a very clear image. Finally, we're back to the upper camera, this time recording in colour with the spotlight switched on. They do a very good job of illuminating the darker parts of the garden, and this clip from my phone gives you a better idea of just how bright they really are. But before moving on, here's a side-by-side comparison between the wide-angle cameras on the Tapo C575D and the Reolink OMVI 3i that I reviewed recently. I think the difference is extremely close, and I've had to zoom in considerably to see it. Let me know in the comments which image you think looks better. Moving on to the notification testing, and because this camera is using a wired PoE connection, I'm hoping the notifications will come through quickly. This is the first Tapo camera I've tested on the channel, so my main point of comparison is the Reolink cameras I've previously reviewed. For the first test, I appear from behind the corner of the house, and as you can see, the camera detects me almost immediately, whilst I'm still around 12 feet away, and the notification comes through straight away. Next, I walk out from behind the garden shed, and for this test I've angled the upper wide-angle camera towards my starting position. Once again, it detects me very quickly at a distance of approximately 16 feet, with the notification arriving almost immediately afterwards. If I repeat the test with the upper camera facing directly forwards, the detection is still very quick once I enter its field of view. This does show how important camera positioning is if you want to get the earliest possible warning of someone approaching. Finally, I'm repeating the test whilst moving considerably faster. This time I'm around 2 to 3 feet past the camera by the time the notification reaches my phone. However, I'm still visible in the wide angle footage and the camera has captured the event. So while notifications arrive very quickly at a normal walking pace, there is a more noticeable delay when someone moves quickly through the scene. So overall then, when compared with the OMVI 3i, the C575D delivers a similar level of notification performance, which is reassuring to see. One of the areas where I've been particularly impressed with this camera is its tracking, especially the speed at which the pan and tilt camera moves. In this footage, you can see that it does a very good job of keeping up with me as I move around the garden. Even when I move into a position where I'm largely obscured, it keeps as much of me in the frame as possible. Then, when I re-emerge, it quickly picks me up and begins tracking me again. There are also some useful features in the Tapo app that can help when monitoring different parts of your property. One of these is called One Tap Smart Focus. It allows you to tap anywhere within the wide angle view and have the pan and tilt camera immediately rotate towards that location. This makes it easy to take a closer look at a specific area, or even keep the camera focused on someone so that they're aware that their presence has been noticed. If you want to monitor several areas with the pan and tilt camera, you can save a number of viewpoints within the Tapo app. Once these have been created, you can select any of them and the camera will immediately move to that position. The C575D also supports patrol mode. This allows you to create up to 8 monitoring points and have the camera move between them automatically. You can decide how long it remains at each position and create a schedule controlling when patrol mode operates. As you can see in the footage, the camera moves quickly between the different positions and gives you a useful way of monitoring a much larger area without having to control it manually. So what's my final view on the Tapo C575D? Well, this is a very capable camera that competes directly with the Reolink OMVI 3i, with plenty of similarities between the two. The main difference is how they provide that wide angle view. The Reolink combines footage from 2 lenses to create a much wider stitched panorama, whereas the Tapo uses a single ultra wide angle lens. That means choosing between the Reolink's wider coverage and the possibility of stitching artifacts, or the Tapo's single uninterrupted image with some curvature towards the edges. Beyond that, each camera has its own strengths and weaknesses, and there are a few other things that could influence which one is right for you. The Tapo produces some impressive nighttime footage, particularly in colour mode without the spotlight switched on. And the pan and tilt camera also moves very quickly and does a great job of keeping the subject in frame whilst tracking, and it can point directly down. Home Assistant users need to be aware of the current limitations, at least until the integration catches up with this particular model. You currently only get the live feed from the upper wide angle camera, although you do have controls for the pan and tilt camera and access to several of its other functions. Despite those limitations, it's still perfectly usable within Home Assistant. My only real grumble with the C575D is the mounting system. The camera simply slides onto the bracket and clicks into place with no retaining screw to secure it. That may be a concern if you're installing it within easy reach, but other than that, it's a well-designed and very capable camera. However, the Tapo's price is difficult to ignore and will probably be the deciding factor for many people. If you're happy with its single lens approach and the performance you've seen throughout this video, it delivers much of the same core functionality as the OMVI 3i, while potentially saving you a significant amount of money. At the time of recording, the Tapo C575D is listed at a special price of £139.99 in the UK or $159.99 in the US. I've included an affiliate link in the description below, or you can scan the QR code shown on the screen here. If you found this video helpful, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, and why not subscribe to the channel for more smart home content like this. But as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.